Guys, I don't even know where to begin. Star Citizen dropped a giant update blog where they literally mention working on getting theaters of war back into the game. The latest episode of Inside Star Citizen showed the awesome new persistent hangar system and cargo, which looks truly game-changing. Patch 3.20 could be right around the corner with some pretty substantial updates, and leaks suggest that we'll be testing server meshing before the end of the year, and Squadron 42 is nearing a feature complete status with plans to publish on multiple platforms. There's a mountain of information here. Let's just start off with the dumb leak and get this out of the way. It's probably fake, but it might not be. Star Citizen has a fairly well-known leak Discord channel, and well, it leaks stuff. And by leaks, I mean there's occasionally posts of totally unverifiable information that end up being wrong, so take this leak with a mountain of salt. Allegedly, Chris Roberts said this: dedicated static server meshing PTU alongside patch 3.21 this year, with Pyro coming later. Squadron 42 video update at CitizenCon. We're approaching content and feature complete status on Squadron 42, and we're moving forward with publishing the game on multiple platforms, meeting with big people. So of course this leak sounds like it could totally be legit or a very well crafted, educated guess from literally anyone following the project. Everyone I know has been predicting some sort of Squadron 42 update at CitizenCon this year. Nobody expects Pyro this year. Testing before the end of the year is pretty much a cliche line from CIG at this point. Cloud Imperium has mentioned in the past that they're open to making Squadron 42 available on the console if the hardware can support it, and they recently revisited this at a Bar Citizen in Shanghai, I believe, with Sandy sort of polling the crowd about console interest. Obviously, if they can get Squadron 42 running on the console, it's a no-brainer, as it would probably quadruple their sales. Anyway, that's the leak, and we can see if it comes true. It all sounds very plausible, but even if it was real, CIG has always been terrible at projections anyway, so there's a good chance none of it comes to fruition. Now, yesterday's episode of Inside Star Citizen was honestly one of the more exciting ones that I've seen in a long time. It properly explained the functionality of cargo elevators, persistent and instanced ship hangars, and a new cargo grid functionality that could change lots of things about the game. This might sound like boring logistical stuff on the surface, but at the core, everything in the game will function around these new systems. Firstly, cargo elevators are basically going to become the go-between for physicalized cargo and your magical inventory space at stations or outposts. These elevators will be located inside of ship hangars and around outposts and other locations that need inventory access. If you buy cargo at a station, it'll exist in your inventory until you can call it up via a cargo elevator in that station's hangar. You'll then need to transfer the cargo to your ship manually or through a timer system, which I think might still be an option if you don't want to do the U-Haul packet yourself every time. And then once you travel to a new location like a city outpost or station, you'll then need to land in a hangar and transfer whatever cargo you might want to sell into the inventory at that new location via the cargo elevator. Basically, all the magical menus of being able to make things appear from a nebulous inventory system are going away. It sounds pretty cool, but also I sincerely hope it doesn't make the game insanely tedious. Now, when it comes to hangars, they're doing what seems like an obvious and necessary choice, which is instancing hangars once the hangar doors close. This way, hangars don't get used up at stations or cities, and you can then spend as much time in your hangar as you need to, while somebody else can land in that same hangar door into a new instanced hangar. Now, persistent hangars, on the other hand, are kind of the next evolution of this, allowing players to, at least at the start, have one home base style hangar. This hangar will allow you to store anything and everything inside of it and have it persist forever. You can decorate it, store munitions, spacesuits, multiple ships if you have a big enough hangar, hang out with friends, plan ops. It honestly looks pretty awesome. And I think this is a really important step toward creating a sense of place in Star Citizen. Players have been wanting to carve out a chunk of space to call their own, and while hangars aren't exactly that, it's sort of a step in the right direction, especially if you could have a persisting hangar on a moon or an asteroid where you always operate from. It would certainly start to feel like home. Now, the last bit of info from IFC is really cool information, and that is the new grid expansion for cargo. Previously, it seemed that only cargo boxes could be attached to cargo grids, but now it seems that CIG wants you to be able to place basically anything on a cargo grid and have it stay in place. Ordnance, spaceships, or even creating a traveling black market in the back of a Hercules. This is really exciting news, as it should start to give players a lot more freedom with how they set up their ships. Showing the whole sea with an Aurora riding on one of the arms is really cool, as it opens up the possibilities for Q ships and pocket carriers with unsuspecting ships. I mean, the whole sea seems like it could carry maybe 8 heavy fighters into battle, possibly more if you could fit a smaller Scorpius on there or something. The whole series might end up becoming one of the most useful ships in the verse after this change comes into effect. Now, moving on to the wall of text that is the Persistent Universe monthly report, this mega blog post is loaded with stuff. Most interestingly, a direct mention of theaters of war and trying to basically figure out the next steps for getting it back into production. If you don't remember what Theaters of War is, it's basically a game mode that was intended to be a large-scale battlefield mode, but in Star Citizen's universe. It looked really cool, although certainly a bit janky with the original footage shown back at 2019 CitizenCon. However, Firesprite, the studio building this mode, was bought by Sony, which basically put a stop to the development, and I guess CIG just wasn't in a place to continue it, but now they potentially are, or at least they're investigating it. I think many players would like to see progress made here. It's always looked like a really cool way to get into Star Citizen, and it'll probably be one of the best ways to balance vehicles and infantry weapons, since you really get to stress test them in a mode like this. Now, of course, there is a ton of information in this post, but I tend to focus on the big ticket items, so the mention of progress with the Vulkan graphics API really caught my attention, and I quote, "Focus is now shifting to unblocking progress on global illumination, as the ray tracing component is Vulkan only." Now, to me, basically all Vulkan progress is exciting, and better global illumination is going to make the game just look better, with potentially more ray tracing features not far behind. They also said this: the VFX programming team is implementing smoke spawning on fire along with various other quality improvements to bring this feature to a visually complete and rather impressive state. And again, this caught my eye because Star Citizen is a huge game with massive traversal distances. If you're looking for a crashed ship on the side of a planet, well, a smoke plume is really going to stand out in the distance. I hope that smoke plumes on the sides of planets become really cool tools for landmarking locations. They used it with the crashed satellite mission already, and I thought that was neat, but seeing it in more areas and even used dynamically would be awesome. Now lastly, patch 3.20 seems like it's right around the corner, with it now being playable in PTU to, I believe, all the backers. Some more updates have been added to the patch, like refined weapon sounds and handling for a lot of the firearms, tons of quality of life updates are being added, and new ground vehicle physics for more realistic handling. It's also bringing the new racing variant of the Fury, called the Fury LX, and while it does still have the Tumbril Storm tank and 2 variants of the Crusader Spirit as tentative additions to this patch, it seems unlikely that they will actually make the cut since they aren't currently being tested. Star Citizen seems like it's ramping up some cool features. If patch 3.20 drops soon, I'll be playing a lot more Arena Commander and testing out the new AI ships on the bounty missions first. Let me know in the comments what you think about this mountain of news, what you're looking forward to checking out the most in the near future, and next up, check out my Star Citizen versus Starfield comparison video. It's a good time. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.